Okay, let's start here with Chitta. Freddie.
I got a question about the green juice. I'm wondering about the the natural protective toxins of the and we're concentrating on the green juice. So I'm wondering about the implications of that.
Concentrating toxins?
Well, every vegetable has a protective poison to keep the insects off.
Yeah.
So when we concentrate the parsley and the celery in the juice, we're getting a concentration of those as well.
Yes, but most of the toxin that's produced by a plant, once it's been off the vine about 24 hours, it degenerates. Also, when you juice it, it stays in the cellulose. It doesn't break easily. It's more in the fiber.
So it goes down with the pulp.
Right, it mostly goes out with the pulp. So, and all of the minerals, when they are released into the juice, did everybody understand the question? Okay, every plant has a protective anti-insecticide on it to keep the insects from eating everything. And his question was, how does our body deal with that? Is that a problem? And it's not a problem when we juice it because most of the poison is degenerated within 24 hours from it being extracted from the ground or the vine or wherever it is, wherever it's picked, the leaf, wherever it might be. Once it's extricated from its natural growth environment, that breaks down, because if it didn't break down, all the insects and molds that naturally decompose to recycle in composting would all die. They'd be killed. So once the plant is off, or once the plant is out of the ground, or the produce is off the tree, that whole cycle stops. So you don't have to worry about the toxins, the natural insecticides that are in vegetables. It's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a group, there's an email group, AV Critics or something like that, and it was coming up in there. And I'm asking.
Certainly. AV means me, Aajonus Vonderplanitz. AV Critics.
Yeah,
critics.
You have critics?
I've got critics. I can be questioned? I guess. I made Wall Street Journal, the financial magazine. Let me use paper. Why didn't they put me on the cover? Because they had an article about raw milk. It was a good one.
When is this?
This was on Wednesday. The title of the article was "Got Raw Milk."
Oh, really?
Was it a good article?
And they put me as the leader of the underground. Milk underground.
Now, which magazine is this?
Wall Street Journal. It's not a magazine. It's a newspaper.
Okay, yeah, of course. Trying to say newspaper.
And I didn't even get out to try to find the paper until like 5 o'clock in the evening. And I had to go to 5 places because they were sold out.
Wow.
To get it, but I found one place that had 5 copies.
Are you going to put it on the website?
I don't. That's not my website.
Oh,
That's my publisher's website for the books. Yeah. I don't have time. But I have a copy here. I'll pass it around if everybody wants to after we thing up. James Stewart read it to me. Maybe I'll read it to all of you. It's one long column. Not too much. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say, about swimming pools. Is there any way to make a swimming pool that is not toxic?
Yeah.
Do we have a swimming pool? There's someone I know has a swimming pool. What they do?
Well, they can make. There are electrical chlorinators. There's an electrical charge machine that sends electrical charge into the water, and it makes a charged chlorine with no chloroform. That's one way. Barbara Streisand just did hers with oxidation, the ozone. She did hers with ozone. To me, that stinks. I don't like that smell on my body, so I prefer the electrical chlorinator. There's no odor to it at all.
But the water, how about the water? Would they be using tap water?
Yeah, well, there's all. you're not going to buy bottled water to put in a swimming pool.
No, I imagine.
Unless you're Michael Jackson, who did that. He had Avion put in his. But he didn't mind spending $1 million to fill his.
Oh, I meant to say that you can put the apple cider vinegar with it.
You can do that.
How many bottles would you need?
Depends on how many gallons you would have.
I have a 24,000 gallon water tank, and we use it for swimming, and it's a pond.
Yeah.
I have guppies in there and water leaks on top.
Yeah, but you are like me. I have my algae growing in my hot tub. I like it green, slimy.
Well, I thought we should have the question and answers in the hot tub.
Why don't we all sit down?
I feel like getting naked.
Oh, yeah.
I'd only fit about 14 people. I think we'd have trouble. Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah. Another thing I just want to mention. I have this girl back me. I just want to discuss that because within Alaska, they have a law there. In order for us to get any marine mammal, that means a seal, they have to be 1/4 Native American.
Is anybody here 1/4 Native American?
That girl wanted she's going to ask her grandmother.
Nope, nobody here. I'm 1/16. I can't help you.
Well, between the two of you.
There we go. That's only an eighth, though. Too hard. Okay, so do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could just say a little bit about iridology,
Uh-huh.
what it is, or a little bit of the basics of it.
It's a diagnostic thing. I mean, it's an analyzation thing. Don't use the word diagnostic because the medical profession owns that word. Nobody can diagnose unless they are a licensed practitioner. You're practicing medicine with unlicensed and you diagnose. So I never diagnose, I analyze. I analyze health. I don't diagnose disease. So that's how we get around that. Anyway, the eye is a readout of the entire physical makeup of the body. And there are locations for every gland, every organ, particular locations for the autonomical nervous system, bones, skin, lymph system. Everything is demonstrated or indicated in the iris. And the two irises are different. The outside, the outer half, you divide the eye in half from 12 to 6 o'clock. The outer half of each eye applies to the respective quadrant, outer quadrant of the body. The inner half applies to the opposite inner quadrants of the body, except in some engineers and almost all inventors. They're same brain-sided, so they don't divide. And what I do is I go in there and look to see discolorations, if you have big white areas or big dark areas, that shows scarring, scar tissue, possible tumors, and discolorations can be plaquing on the outside, particular areas where fibers are fractionated, divided. It's like pointillist art. That shows that the poisons are going intracellular rather than extracellular. So there's lots of things I look for. I could go into 2 hours or 5 hours on that to get specific in that. But basically, I can tell a lot that's going on in the body. That as far, your MDs, they use X-rays, and basically, if it doesn't, hit them in the face, they don't know what is happening in the body. With iridology, I can tell early stages of development of just about anything. And that's why it's very helpful to know. But most people, when they come to see me, they're not happy when they leave because nobody's well. Nobody's well. Even those people who think they're well, they're not well. There's damage, there's toxins in your body. So if you don't want to know, don't come. But if you know how to get rid of it quicker. Yes? Wood machine. Oh, you mean my reading of the iris? Yeah. Yes. Cardiac arrest, yes.
Or aorta
I can see
torn?
congestion around the heart. I saw somebody that came a couple of weeks ago had 5 little bitty pea-sized what looks like tumors. So I can't say they're tumors because I'd be diagnosing, with the medical profession. I'm only allowed to. So what I say is, this is what I see when people have been diagnosed by the medical profession with tumors, and I find them in the heart.
Tumors that go in heart.
Rare.
Yeah.
This man had it.
For you, the chemical
It's about 3 months. Well, I can see it within a month, but most people can't see it within 3 months, until 3 months have passed. So unless somebody's definitely ill, I say come back in a year. Then you get to see a big change then, and then everybody's very happy about those changes. Something they can see dramatically. If you come back in 3 months, you'll see the subtle changes. And that can make you happy, but it's better just come back in a year unless you have cancer or something like that. I like to keep up with it about every 3 months. Otherwise, a year's fine. If somebody has MS or something like that, I like to see maybe 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. My husband has big blotches on his back, about this big.
White color?
They're red, like a rash, and they're all on his left back and on his arm there. And he has called you before. He has dystonia from thorazine, and he eats the raw diet, except he has chicken. You told him to have chicken once a week, but he's been having to have it more because he's detoxing so much. So I
You mean cooked chicken?
Yes, cooked chicken. So I was wondering, what can he do?
The primal facial body care
Should he
cream.
just leave it go?
No.
Okay.
Because usually it's a mold. Could be a yeast infection.
Okay.
And remember, the yeast, all molds are there to break down degenerative tissue.
Okay.
If it's a yeast mold, that means that it's feeding off of sugar damaged tissue.
Okay.
If it's like
Now he's eating cooked chicken.
Gerardia, it's a cross between sugars, sometimes alcohol, and toxic cooked heterocyclic amines that have damaged the cell.
I see.
Heterocyclic amines from cooked meats.
So now he feels so bad he's eating cooked chicken almost every day or every other day.
He's not going to get beyond it then.
I see. Okay.
They'll just live in that state.
Okay.
It'd be best if he's soaked in a hot tub.
Okay.
Maybe an hour a day, and put the primal facial body care cream
Okay.
from the book, the recipe book.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
How do you deal with different metabolic types? Or I don't know that much about it, but I've heard people talking about, depending on where you are, from Alaska to South Africa, there's different metabolic types that feel good eating different.
That's a theory
portions.
that nobody has any proof to substantiate, and I certainly haven't been able to find any either. I mean, in my actual practice with people, I have, Africans who eat this diet, that, vegetarians who live their whole life as vegetarians who eat the diet. So I haven't found any. I've got Nordic people who eat, they're the ones that are supposed to be the meat eaters, raw meat eaters from, basically everywhere. I've got people from the tropics eating this diet. And it's all favorable for everybody. So this metabolic thing is somebody's idealization on what they think should be happening in nature, but it's not. Yeah.
I'm fairly new to this, and of course, one of the hardest one to get over was eating chicken. And so I ate chicken, and I'd eaten it a few times, but then one time I ate it and smelled it and everything, but I got really sick.
What was your sick?
Like diarrhea for a week, 103 fever for 2 days.
That doesn't mean you got it from chicken.
Like, how do you know if you actually did get food poisoning or?
There's no such thing as food poisoning. unless you're eating cooked food. So remember that when you eat when a bacteria feeds on cooked food, it's eating poisons along with it, just like if we eat, cooked food, we'll get heterocyclic amines, lipid peroxides, and advanced glycation end products and acrylamides. Those are the major toxins. Also have other complex toxins which are not as investigated, but I mentioned them in the recipe book. So when these bacteria feed on them too, they also produce more toxins. So their barotoxins will be 10 to 100 times more toxic. And when they're raw, they're never toxic. As I said in the recipe book, the people who aren't on this diet have an average of 18 to 20% diarrhea and vomiting happening all the time. 18 to 20% of the population. On this diet, it's 8 to 12%, depending upon the time of year. So there's a lot less diarrhea and vomiting. But you can't associate with either cooked diet or raw diet because it happens on both. So you have to say what's causing the diarrhea. When I've had diarrhea analyzed and vomit analyzed, I found a lot of poisons, a lot of dead liver cells, gallbladder, spleen, something like that in the vomit. In the diarrhea, I found a lot of dead bowel cells or intestinal cells or liver cells or muscular cells and some gut cells. So it's a dumping area. The stomach and the bowels and the intestines are a dumping area for these poisons to leave the blood to get into to get in and out of the body. So vomiting and diarrhea is a good thing, whether you're on a cooked diet or a raw diet. And it has nothing to do with what you're eating. However, if you're eating cooked foods, you're more likely to create more of it because you're putting more poison to be dumped into the stomach and intestines. So you've got to get out of the stigma that some raw food has caused you diarrhea and vomiting. When you have diarrhea and vomiting when you're eating cooked foods, what do you blame it on? It's always poisons in the body. I mean, if you're eating some very high cooked meat, yeah, that can create instant diarrhea because the barotoxins are very, very potent. So that's poison in itself. But eating high meat, as those people saw when I was on, those of you who saw when I was on Ripley's Believe It or Not a year ago, I ate a year and 3 months old high meat that did not sit in the refrigerator. And I did not get sick. The photographer got sick. From smelling it, he was vomiting like crazy. But I didn't get sick eating it.
Is that because you're used to it? I mean, you've been doing it regularly?
Well, it smells pretty good to me. People who've eaten it a lot, it starts smelling good to them. It's like the Eskimos. First time I smelled, I couldn't get within 5 feet of it. I was just like the cameraman. I wanted to vomit like crazy. And the children were jumping up and down.
Over what?
This odor of the high meat. Yeah, they love it because they get them so high and happy.
What do you call it?
It makes them strong through the fall and winter.
It's called pemmican?
Pemmican.
Oh,
No.
pemmican.
Pemmican is not high meat.
Oh.
Pemmican is meat that they preserve by drying it, beating it into a flour, mixing it with some kind of lard, baking it in the sun. The dried meat will absorb that fat. They press it into a block, about a 90-pound block, and they do it every every late summer. The Eskimo. And so did the North American Indians all through Canada. This was in case they didn't get fresh food. They always had this reserved, but they never ate the pemmican unless they had to. If they did not eat it, they just buried it. They never ate it unless they had to, because it's enzyme and vitamin deficient. It leaches from the body. So they only use it in emergency. Well, some of the adventurers, the trailblazers that went across from, Canada and across the Americas, all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast, or the East Coast to the West Coast, would take one 90-pound block of that and make it all 3,000 miles across the country, one block. They eat a chunk of it a day, about half of a cup, with lots of water, and they could go on that all day
So
long.
they were on raw foods then.
No, that isn't really a raw food. It's not cooked, but it's also not raw. It's not fresh and raw because there's no enzymes and vitamins active in something that's dehydrated. Roger, do you have a question?
Yes. Is there a great difference between the meat that you buy in the ordinary grocery store like Ralph Vaughn's or what you buy at Whole Foods, which is New Zealand?
Big, huge difference. New Zealand is almost all raised meat. Plus it's mostly organic, what they do feed them. In the regular supermarkets, they feed them lots of grain, and most of the feed that they feed them are byproducts from food processing. They take the bran, all the waste products from producing food for humans, cereals and stuff like that, all the cooked garbage is what they mix into a meal and give these animals. And feed them. So it fattens them up. Of course, the body has to produce tremendous amounts of fat to deal with these toxins. So the fat is very rich with toxins in your store-bought meats. Most of it won't be absorbed if you're eating it raw because it'll just pass through you. But you're not getting a lot of nutrient value from it as you would from New Zealand beef. Now, when I was in Paris for 3.5 years, off and on for 3.5 years, I was eating the mad cow. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I ate it for 3 years before, and then, once the girl broke up with me because I wouldn't marry her, I find this article that said, Care for Supermarkets, that's where I was getting my meat when I was in Paris, was buying and selling the mad cow meat, so that's what I had been eating all that time. And, I wasn't eating the brain or spinal cord, so it's no big deal. Oh yes, your regular feed cows are fed lots of antibiotics, shot with antibiotics, have clips with antibiotics on their ears, and lots of hormones, growth hormones in the feed, so they'll grow faster and larger. And those have been linked with, they get a lot of it from soy byproducts. And there are two poisons that are known to be highly carcinogenic. I can't remember the Gerdestein and something else, another Stein product that is highly carcinogenic. It's a known poison. It's illegal to put it in any pesticide. Yet every time you eat a soy product, you're eating it. Including soy sauce? Yep. Highly concentrated. Not good stuff.
And this comes from the fertilizers of soybean?
No, this is in the soybean.
Oh, naturally.
It's naturally in the soybean. Naturally, soybean, if a human or any bird eats the soy, you're going to die raw. You will kill you because of the poisons in it. So when they feed soy to all kinds of fowl, chicken, turkeys, whatever it is, it has to be highly processed the same way it has to be for humans. So it's never raw. And when they call it organic, it is not, because you have to solvent treat some of it. So would you wash your fruits with kerosene and then eat it, call it organic? No. So it's a misnomer. Your rosy chicken is fed 75 to 80% cooked, processed, solvent-extracted soy. It is a misnomer. It is a lie. It is not organic.
We do eat Rocky.
I said Rosie.
Oh, Rosie.
We eat Rocky Jr. They feed their 75 to 80% raw corn. Even though it may not be organic, I'll still take the raw corn over the cooked process, solvent-extracted soy.
The soy milks that they have now out there,
Same thing. Garbage. Pardon? 75 to 80. Yeah. Then the rest is garbage soy. Like Rocky Jr. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, well, Lily's would be the best, but Lily's won't sell us their chicken. They don't. They're a chicken farm. I mean, they're an egg farm.
for layers.
Yeah.
But she says to change it.
Pardon?
I'm a lot of their eggs like that. Like I get
Not Lily's. Yeah.
They have the soy and the brown.
But they did sell a few of their chickens, I remember, at the market.
Yeah, but they're doing that only at the farmer's market, but they won't sell it to us in big quantity. I haven't investigated Harmony Farms.
What about the non-New Zealand beef that's organic? Like Whole Foods has got New Zealand and non-New Zealand. How does that compare to the New
Whole
Zealand?
Foods has their own. They bought the ranches. Whole Foods is a big farce. They go around. You see everywhere in the store. Go organic, but you rarely see even 1% of the food in their stores organic. So it's a big hype bullshit. It's big bullshit. Their meat, they feed 15% bakery waste, which is stale, boiled in oil donuts. And they call that natural meat. What cow do you know goes around eating,
Yeah.
unless it's a police woman.
Police cow.
The pigs eat it, the female cows eat it. Pardon? Well, you eat what you can get, the best of what you can get. But the best to get is New Zealand all grain.
There's also some very good things out of our pasture that they clean on.
Good.
From both sides. I think. Small farm. Are we using them better than New Zealand when he gets now?
Yeah.
Well, no, he gets the New Zealand that's all organic,
Yeah.
which is better than Whole Foods.
No, I know that, but it's just something
It's the
organic.
same probably, but you probably don't have to pay for the shipping.
We don't have time to have that kind of discussion.
Oh.
The other was about, let's say, the donut fed, the what is it, Coleman beef that Wild Oats carries. They do feed there some byproducts. So some of the feed is a byproduct. So it's not all, all perfect. And they don't promise that it's organic either. But it's still better than Ralph's or Save-On, and it's better than Wild Oats donut fed.
You mean Whole Foods?
Whole Foods donut fed.
We should put it
Told you
aside.
that mad cow. Okay. Question.
Yes, on type of milk, goat's milk versus cow's milk. You have some authorities that.
Okay, let me go through it. Okay, goat's milk is high in hormones, especially adrenaline. So people who are thin and hyperactive should not be drinking goat's milk. They should be drinking cow's milk. Settle their nervous systems and systems. Those people who are overweight could use the adrenaline. So goat's milk is fine for them. People in between, if you feel hyperactive, you feel anxious or irritable, don't drink goat's milk. Drink cow's milk. Okay?
The same
So-
goes for cream too, goat's cream?
Goat's cream still contains a lot of precursors for developing adrenal hormone. So, goat's cream is not going to relax your system. Cow's cream is.
So stay away from goat's cream. Just finish up what I asked.
No.
If you're anxious and irritable, then just stick with cows. Okay?
Yes, question.
Yeah. Well, it depends. If you're not hyperactive because you're thin, it could be because you're not creating any hormones. Because your body cannot afford to burn itself, eat itself up. When I was a vegetarian for a long time, I was one of the easiest going guys there was because I had no fucking energy, to get upset. In between, when it get down to that, I can get very irritable very quickly in somebody's face because they're killing animals and eating animals. Die-hard vegetarian. But I had to learn my lesson. Then when I became so weak that I was so mellow that I was tired.
So the issue about the size of the fat globules in cow's milk versus goat's milk is that
that's hypothetical garbage. If you're eating it raw, you're going to digest it, whether it's a larb. Well, what does that mean? It means I'm going to be more nourished if I eat more. So I'll take a bigger molecule of fat from a cow as opposed to a goat.
So in other words, should we throw away what we have?
No, eat it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Having those milk or avoiding it?
Well, it depends. Depends upon the person. If it's irritable, I'd say no, or mix it. Yeah. There are other ways to stimulate your adrenal glands other than milk. Goat's milk. I got it in the book. There you go. There's the coffee substitute, and there's also red onion. There's also garlic. All those are stimulated. Sack. Can you around somebody stimulate? Okay. Do you have a question?
Just a quick one. When we were eating here before, it said it was okay to eat berries right after eating. Always, I've read the book and I heard people have this large paragraph on berries. How is it that berries bring fruit?
They are, but we're eating such a little amount.
That
You can get away with eating a couple of tablespoons of fruit, even with the meat. When the Indians made their pemmican, they usually made it with blueberry or berries of any kind.
And you should be eating pineapple with your meat. That is for what kind of butter?
Any kind of butter.
Anyone can just have pineapple.
Pineapple with meat. Well, I didn't want you to have anything to detoxify you. I wanted to stabilize you. You were in too much pain. But stay away from fruit if you're in pain. Stay away from fruit. Well, you're just pain-free for how long? No. I would wait a couple of months before I do that. I mean, maybe 1 day a week.
So you're saying zero?
Zero fruit. If you're in pain, zero fruit. Zero high carbohydrate fruit.
Well, but in the book you said you used to take it out.
Yes, but that's not anymore. Because I found there's too many situations where it affects people badly. That's why in the new book it doesn't say that. When I redo the first book, it will be correct.
Is that
be updated?
Does that include tomatoes?
No, tomatoes is not a high carbohydrate fruit. It's a bland fruit, highly acid.
So cucumbers and tomatoes and anything like that?
Cucumbers are a little too high in alkalinizing minerals, but it's not high in high carbohydrates, so it's still okay. You just don't want to eat too much with meat.
Neither the tomatoes or
No more.
No, the tomatoes are high in acids.
No
They
more-
can eat as much as you like with the meats.
No more than 3 cucumbers at a time, slices.
Yeah, about 3 slices. I said 2 tablespoons in the recipes book. I said 2 tablespoons of anything highly alkalinizing. That goes for parsley, cucumber, zucchini, whatever it is high in alkaline. You want to keep it to 2 tablespoons per meat. Let's say per cup of meat. And a cup of meat is only 1/3 of a pound.
If you can have an egg with it, right?
Eggs acid. You have as many eggs as you like with meat. I was in Pattaya, Thailand. I always went to this French restaurant because they make my steak tartare for me every night differently, the way I wanted it. So I just ordered the way I wanted it for
Like,
that
how
evening.
did you have it?
And the chef came out and said, "You're eating an omelet tonight," because they had like 5 eggs in it instead of a couple of egg yolks.
Or they just got either eggs when you went there, or tomatoes, or whatever they put with the
Well, I gave them different recipes.
Oh.
You can create your own way. More eggs, less eggs, more meat, less meat.
With their
More tomatoes.
Their meat is all grass-fed in Thailand.
Well, it all depends where they get it from. Anyway, I'm not going to go into Thailand. Okay, you have a question?
Cream shakes and all different sorts of shakes where you have
People who usually get nausea after eating a cream shake or a milkshake, their liver, spleen, gallbladder, or pancreas. And it's usually gallbladder, and it's usually pancreas and liver are dumping into the stomach poison. So it's a good detoxification. Eat a little cheese before you start drinking it, or a little cheese after they're in between. It'll absorb those poisons and make you nauseous. Remember, nausea is always an indication that poisons are dumping into the stomach. Period. That is always what it is. You want them to dump there. It's the best place for them to go because the hydrochloric acid can neutralize them. The American Indians, if they ever got, let's say, a scorpion bite from, let's say, a black scorpion, or they got a rattlesnake bite, if there were a lactating animal around, they would drink the milk because it would pull that poison to the stomach and it would neutralize it. The milk will absorb it, and then the hydrochloric acid neutralizes any kind of insect poison. One time I got bitten pretty badly, and there wasn't any raw milk around, so I got some hydrochloric acid, put it in a solution of grape juice, and injected it in my hip.
How did you get hydrochloric acid from where?
From a health food store bottle of hydrochloric acid pills.
Oh.
Yeah.
What about car sickness? You know, like,
You can't jump off.
We're talking about nausea.
We got to get back around. I know, but that's still, we're talking about one particular kind of nausea. If we get into nausea, we could be here all day.
Well, we're just
There's plenty of nausea.
Oh, your own hydrochloric acid can come up from your system.
That would be great, but I was a fruitarian at the time, and I had shortly after the surgery, so I had none. There's none in my stomach. I have to go into my small intestines again.
Oh, that's what I get it.
And there wasn't any animal for me to make regurgitate, even if I danced. Do you have a question? Maria. Very, very true. Just do a raw diet. Make enough of those hormones. All you need is the proteins and fats. Pardon? Okay. She was saying because of the pollution that we have, a lot of women and men are not producing their normal hormones because they are producing them. But what's happening is that because hormones are higher in fat than most other substances created by the body, they go for the toxins, or the toxins go for the fat. So what it does is it's turned the hormones into detoxification substances that will bind to those poisons. Then you can no longer use them as energy hormones, or hormones to build bones, or hormones to function normally. You don't have enough fat in your blood, especially thin women have that problem, because there's not enough fat in the blood. So the body will start using those hormones as fat binders, as toxin binders, as fat toxin binders. Yes. Is that why you get irritable and nasty and itchy? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, ask Lisa. Lisa sent you. She said once she gained all that weight, she's not a bitchy.
Really?
Yeah. And that happens to all of the women. Yeah. This is the fine size right here. Lori's the fine size back there. Women who have excess be happy, much happier. Question? Yeah, one at first. Yeah. Unless they're related.
Very and whenever she eats anything,
start starting to walk out. She has no mucus lining on her stomach. So anything goes in there, hydrochloric acid starts eating away on her stomach lining. She needs to spend a month eating nothing but about 30 eggs a day. How tall is she? Sure. How tall? 5'1", 5'2"? Okay. I don't know why. It's all that. So she could have, 25, 28 eggs a day, 22 to 28 eggs. And just stick with eggs. Eggs, eggs, eggs all day long and for about 22 to 30 days. That should coat and, redo the lining of the stomach. Now she's going to have some nausea because of it, still with the eggs. The eggs will prep the stomach and handle it. Another thing she could eat is colostrum, fresh colostrum, but not room temperature. Not refrigerated, room temperature. And it's best if she leaves it out at least for 24 hours before she drinks it. All right. Well, what they do is they pre-steam it. 215 degrees maximum, they say. Maximum. Over 96 degrees is too much. So yeah, they do. There is one called something like virgin cocoa de cream.
Did you drink it?
No. Some people want to eat pre-made so they don't have to juice the coconut. Coconut cream.
The James though.
Yeah, but that's naturally juiced, freshly juiced. This is pre-made, packaged, and shipped. That one they do at about 118 degrees. So I will use it for massage, but I won't use it for eating. I will use a little bit in my Primal Facial Body Care Cream, but not for eating. I've only seen it in glass, but yeah, they do package it for massage oil in plastic. Correct. Not necessarily. If it has carbon, if it's naturally carbonated, the carbonated destroys bacteria. So you don't have to worry about it being treated like that. Right. Perrier. Now Perrier in the 80s, early 80s or mid 80s, had a problem. They weren't completely rinsing the bottle, so the benzene and the detergent was staying in there and poisoning people. But everybody rinses their bottles thoroughly. So it's not a problem.
Uncarbonated water,
All
We're
been
treated with what?
all been treated. Either ozonation, chemical treatment, chlorine. It's always some way.
Not Evian.
What about Mountain Valley? Arkansas?
Even Mountain Valley, they're ozonated.
How about Pinta water?
Pinta water is very treated.
Gerolsteiner is the only one that's okay.
Gerolsteiner, San Pellegrino, any of the naturally sparkling waters.
Okay, right.
Trinity is a treated water.
And Evian.
Ozonated isn't great. It's not severely harmful, but it's not great.
What about Evian? Evian water.
Evian, I haven't investigated those lately, but they used to be fine. They used to not treat it. Pardon?
365.
Pardon? Distilled water is the worst water you can drink. You will just rip your system to pieces because it's the hungriest water. Yep, it leaches everything. That's different. That's high in bacteria.
What is it called? Rainwater?
Rainwater.
Rainwater. Oh.
Rainwater is full of bacteria. That's a different kind of distilled water. But still, it's not a good idea to drink a lot of rainwater either. What does rain do? Rain goes down and dissolves the rock in the ground so the plants can eat. And that's what it does. If you drink too much water, it will dissolve and leach the nutrients out of your digestive tract and blood. Now, when you're going through a detoxification or downsizing, if you have a problem losing weight, water can be helpful to dissolve some of that garbage. But if you lose weight quickly, you don't want to have much water. Now, I don't say no water. I say keep your water intake low.
On the subject of mineral baths, why do people take mineral baths? What's beneficial?
Because the minerals are magnetic when they're concentrated. So you have poisons in your skin, and your lymph system throws more poisons off through the skin than anywhere else in the system.
Could you repeat that, please, again? The lymph system?
You've heard that one a dozen times. Okay. The lymph system throws off more toxins than any other part of the body. You throw toxins off into the tear ducts, into the gums, the tongue, the salivary glands, the earwax, the mucus, all throughout the body, the urinary tract, females with their uterus, all that mucus, dumps poisons. Poisons build a lot of mineral poisons into the nails and hair. Every part of the body is a bowel because we're so toxic. We are all complete assholes. Literally. So, the skin is the largest area, mass area that secretes these poisons as you perspire. So getting into a hot mineral bath is a good thing. That's why I used to live in a bathtub with my milk and my vinegar and my sea salt. When I was so in pain from the blood and bone cancer, every joint in my body ached. I couldn't lie on any side of my body for more than 10 minutes. I'd fall asleep, wake up in severe pain after 10 minutes, so I could never get any sleep. So I would put 2 cups of milk, 2 to 3 cups of milk in the bath, 2 ounces of raw unpasteurized vinegar, and 2 level tablespoons of sun-dried sea salt. And I could just lie in there. And what it would do is, all of the pain, it's an electrical charge that gets up to the brain, and it all registers. Well, for some reason, in the water, it discharges it into the water. All that pain goes into the water instead of in my brain, so I don't have to experience it. So I was able to sleep. I'd wake up every hour and a half to 2 hours, freezing to death, but I would just let some of the water out, put some more hot water in without having to add any more nutrients to the water, and I could sleep in that water for 6 to 12 hours. And that's the only way I was able to heal, because that's the only way I was able to sleep, go into the sleep state. So that worked very well. 2 to 3 cups of milk, 2 ounces of raw and pasteurized apple cider vinegar, and 2 level tablespoons of sun-dried sea salt.
Is that in your cookbook?
It's in the recipe book, I believe. Yes. You can, if you like. Maybe a little bit more drying for your skin, but that's okay. Well, I'm still investigating. Right now I'm using the French green clay. That's good clay. The Terramin clay, Terramin, is a pretty good clay. It's from the desert, the California desert. Some of the areas where they mine it was from a thermal bed that was about active maybe 900 years ago or so. So some of those minerals are still cauterized. So I'm experimenting with some of it, eating some of it just to see what it's like. Because it may have had enough bacterial activity to where that cauterization has reversed itself. But I'm not going to say positively it is. But you can use it as a mask, you can put it in your bath, you can use it as skin application, whatever you like in that way. Pardon? No, you have to get it off the internet. No, the Terramount. Green clay, you can get it at any of the health food stores in the bulk department. Well, let me put it this way. I've gotten it at Co-Opportunity, I've gotten it at Erewhon, and the Whole Foods at National and Bering. They all had it in the bulk department.
This is dry.
Yeah.
This is
dry. Yeah, then you mix it in and make a paste of it and leave it. Yeah, put it in the juice. Well, what I do is when I'm putting some clay in the juice to bind with, say, some poisons in the juice, when I blend the foam with the honey, thin the honey, I'll put the clay in that, and when that's all mixed, then I pour it into the rest of the juice and stir that in.
And on the mineral bath, like some people are more alkaline, some people are more acidic.
It doesn't make any difference. In that bath, it doesn't make it'll pull out. The vinegar, when you put the vinegar in it, that adds an acidity. Almost all of the minerals that are sold are on the alkaline side. So you're getting, that's why I put the vinegar in there, to make sure that everybody's at a good balance. Not over alkalinized or over acidic. The skin is naturally acid, so you want it acid. But you don't want it acid from the 192 chemicals that may be already off. Right. Okay. Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Did you read in the new recipe book? You say if you mix lime juice with the coconut cream right away when you get it home, blend it in there, it will keep for 6 weeks, 21 days to 6 weeks. I've had it even last 3 months.
So I'm just curious.
Just when you get it home, put it in 8-ounce or 4-ounce jars with the lime juice in it. Yep.
How much lime juice? Great.
I use about 2 tablespoons for 8 ounces. Tablespoon for 4 ounces. Pardon? No, a pint is only 2 cups. Yeah, so that's 2 ounces. 2 ounces. 4 tablespoons for a pint.
What I've done.
But don't put it in pint jars. Put it in 8-ounce jars.
Yeah. So what I've done is I've added eggs and onions.
That's fine. Just detox you more.
So eggs and onions are very.
Right, that's a smoothie. It's more detoxification. Good question.
Can you put the lime juice in fresh aloe vera juice?
You don't need that in aloe vera juice. Aloe vera juice has a natural enzyme which is very bitter and preserves the juice. No need for that. Just keep it refrigerated. RVs.
I have 2 questions. First,
Give me one.
in every book regarding cancer, they suggest not getting sugar. Any kind of sugar is no good. But in your suggestion, always talk about other kinds of sugar.
These people are eating processed honeys and are eating toxic sugar. So honey, unheated honey is not a problem. There's very little advanced glycation. There's less than about 10% advanced glycation that comes off of an unheated honey. When you process honey and heat it, you've got 90% going into advanced glycation byproducts, end products.
Sugar from any kind of sugar is produced. that
Because you have advanced glycation end products forming, but if you have it once a day, it's not a problem. Now, if I have somebody that's very advanced in cancer, it's, the face is falling off, I'll tell them to stay off of any kind of high sugar, even fruit, because they just can't afford it. They can't afford any advanced glycation end products. Including, no, not the honey. The honey's still something. But any other fruit, tell them to stay away from it. Go ahead.
In your diet, always mixing all kind of products. Okay, but usually
No, not all kinds. You cannot mix green vegetable juices with any other animal product except for cream or butter or coconut cream.
But eggs with meat, with honey, with everything is permitted.
Yes.
How the liver can support this?
Because the liver doesn't have to leach enzymes. The pancreas doesn't have to leach enzymes. People who are eating cooked foods and mixing it are not, they have so many varieties of foods that need these various enzymes, and they have to leach them all from the body. So if they can leach just one kind, that means you only have to build several kinds of enzymes to go out and leach. But if they've got a whole mixture of foods, they have to have 100 varieties of these hormones that will go out and call out these missing enzymes. So again, it's with cooked foods there's the problem, not with raw. Okay? Uh-huh. Yes, very necessary. It's one of the most healing agents there is, because 90% of it is made into enzymes. Enzymes are very important for digesting and utilizing meat and proteins in the system. Very important. Also, it takes care of a lot of the sugar problems that you have. The cravings for sugars is the craving for these enzymes. So people will go off eating too much fruit. If they eat too much fruit, it's going to turn the entire digestive tract to alkaline. Meat's going to be repulsive to them. You're just going to lose, so eat honey. It's your best way out. Not with the weight loss, because that'll make you crazy. Because then you're searching for too much protein, and you're not eating enough protein to utilize that much honey. Yes? Well, we found some that's 10,000 years old in the pyramid, and it was great and fine. So I don't know if there's a limit on it. Do you have a question? Okay. Good question.
I debate to ask you this because it goes back to the
Folded dry iron?
Yeah, the triangles, yeah. And, even though that's very funny about the cows but the thing is, they think that's like a 20-year incubation.
You have to understand the psychology of the medical profession. They're always going to blame some animal for everything. They're always going to blame some bacteria for everything. They're always going to blame something in nature for everything that goes wrong. But you have to understand that primitive man did not have diseases. Still, those who eat primitively and eat raw meats and raw dairy have no diseases. The only disfiguration that I've seen in any of those tribes is the the Fulani, who eats 90 to 95% only milk, raw milk. They have splotchy skin. Maybe they're related to the cows, splotches. But that is the only deformity that I see about them. But they're so familiar with it, it's a beauty to them. It's not a deformity because there's no disease as a result of it.
So you can just live off milk and not be well enough?
No, not us.
Not
them. They were raised that way. If we were raised all raw, we wouldn't have the poisons to need excess meat and all of that. It's a fiction. The prion illness is a fact, but it's not because of anything natural. It's because of all the chemicals and antibiotics that they've been giving these cows for so long. They found the folded prions, yes. And you also see, if you link the U.S. military's link to dropping bombs on these herds to test biological warfare, you'll find that those herds always were subjected to some kind of chemical contamination. And I don't know if you've done any investigation of that. The U.S. military has been using, one time they dropped it on 1 million people in the swamps of Louisiana. Chemical testing, biological warfare on our own people in Louisiana, 1 million people.
Why go through testing?
Biological chemical warfare on our own people.
Oh, I thought they
documented.
With
Oh yeah, they do it with the chemtrails, they do it with...
They're doing chemtrails
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
natural too?
Yeah, it's chemotherapy. But it's based... Everybody's detoxing when they have an illness. Disease is always detoxification. Pain is always detoxification. Pain is swelling in the area. Swelling is always an increase of nutrients to the area. Trying to get more nutrients in there to clean the area, to cleanse the area, to detoxify, and to supply nutrients for healing. Colds, flus, no matter what it is, it's all detoxification. This diet doesn't change anything, except that when you detoxify properly, and you heal properly. People who are on cooked foods do not detoxify properly and do not heal properly.
With that, I think it makes sense. Say the cruise ship diseases, when people are on a cruise and some 70% of them are getting some similar illness. Now, if the germ theory doesn't apply, how does it apply coincidentally to all these people?
It's not coincidental. Let's say that food had been like the Jack in the Box incident. I linked it to, they didn't clean out at the factory when they were grinding the meat. They did not clean out the benzene out of the grinders properly. So when the meat got through, that whole 225-pound block of ground beef was affected with that benzene. Who are they going to blame it on, though? What happens when you put poisons in the body? You create bacteria to eat the degenerative tissue. So, of course, you're always going to find Salmonella or E. coli or Campylobacter in the presence of degenerative tissue. So, instead of saying, well, the benzene created the damage to the cells that caused the reaction for the body to these bacteria to break down that degenerative tissue, they point right to the bacteria as the cause. And it's not the cause, it's the chemical that's the cause. If it were the bacteria, man would have become extinct a long time ago. We haven't had refrigeration for about 100 years. You know? I mean, I remember when I was still a kid, we were bringing blocks of ice in, at the farm. Blocks of ice. We had ice boxes, true ice boxes. So bacteria's been with us a long time, and like I said in my milk report, they used to feed babies in hospitals who were highly contaminated and diseased that was 300 million parts of pathogens. 300 million parts. They only allow 10 of them in to milk now. 10 parts they won't allow. And they were feeding children, they were getting well, infants getting well, who had some kind of infant disease. They had 3 million parts.
When was this, about 50 years ago?
About 60, 70 years ago.
70 years ago.
Documented.
Even the very contaminated dive right in and have any of the raw foods, bacteria levels, and they should be okay. There doesn't need to be a gradual.
Well, I mean, I don't suggest somebody go out and eat a half a pound of high meat and they haven't been on the raw diet for very long. That can cause a massive detox, because what is that bacteria going to do? They're going to go and start eating up all your dead cells. And if you have that much waste product dumping at one time, it's going to take your full body's energy, and you're going to have diarrhea, you're going to have vomiting, you're going to be floored. So you want to be rational about what detoxifications you promote, and that's what I'm going into in the next book.
I've been talking to somebody who, by the way, she ate 200 pounds, I told you, of the high meat, and almost within a very short time. And she's still been fighting sickness, vomiting and pains in her hips.
200 pounds or 2 pounds?
200 pounds.
200 pounds of high meat?
Yeah, within a very period of time. Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah, but
take her 200 days to eat it?
No, I mean different. 200 days? I mean, she had a lot. She was raising animals. I don't know if it's 200 pounds, but I have to make sure.
I'm not sure I would believe that story.
But I mean, she's still, since 1993, in pain and going through vomiting and diarrhea since 1993.
Did she eat that much in a short period of time?
Yeah, she was raiding her own pieces,
Was she eating it raw?
Yeah, raw, right. Yeah.
And since 93?
Yeah.
I'd have to question that person. Anyway, we can't argue about it. That person isn't here to tell their story. Okay. Do you have a question? The only thing that can be mixed with green juices are fats. And those fats should be butter, cream, or coconut cream only. No olive oil or anything like that. It's too abrasive. And clay. Well, no, I don't use that for detoxing. I use it to bind with in case there's some kind of pesticide or residue in there. Arlene, do you have a question?
Yeah, this happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was in a very bad area.
Hold on, can somebody give me a glass of milk, please? Is there any milk out there? Thank you. Go ahead, Arlene.
And I expected to be there for about an hour in the morning. All I had to do was one shoes. Something happened. I was held over there all day. And there are areas of this city where you can drive for 15 minutes and all you see are Popeyes and McDonald's. And driving and driving, all I could find at one point was a coffee shop. And I'm stuck there all day and I needed to eat something. What would have been the least offensive thing? I ended up ordering very, very, very rare hamburgers.
Okay, when I did that one time, I went to In-N-Out Burger, In-N-Out Burgers, and they're the only ones that don't freeze their hamburger. They would not serve me the hamburger without the bun, so I said, give me the frickin' bun. So I just took it off the bun and ate the hamburger. However, I don't care if I'm leaving the house for 2 hours, I take food for at least 12 hours, sometimes for 24 hours, because you never know what's going to happen. Car could break down, you could go to jail for some reason, you get a chemical spill on the street. What's going to happen? You don't have your food. I always am prepared because I've had too many situations like you just described.
Coffee shop.
Like I said, the best alternative would have been get it raw. All right.
They don't freeze it, right?
They don't freeze their meats, yes. Good question.
I noticed when I drink alcohol milk, I had kind of a 8 or 8.
Are you drinking it cold or warm?
Sometimes.
I rest my case. Whenever you drink cold milk, what happens? Your stomach shrinks, contracts. When your stomach's contracted, you can't build and secrete hydrochloric acid. So what happens? You have unprocessed sugars and unprocessed proteins move into the duodenum. And they go right into the blood undigested. Then the liver has to try to handle the situation, or the pancreas, and that'll cause some cramping. And let's say the time before you drank it cold, but you didn't have the reaction right away, so the next time you drank the milk, all of a sudden the body's going to deal with that undigested protein that's sitting in the liver. So I tell people not to drink cold milk. Don't do it. Minimum, I would say, is if you take it out right away and you put it in a bowl of warm water and it gets to body temperature, probably a half hour. But if you just take it out and don't put it in warm water and you let it sit in a cupboard, put it in a dark cupboard because the light will turn it bitter. So put it in a dark cupboard, let it sit. And you know, 8-10 hours. Well, it just isn't as tasty. You can also make some bad breath. No.
Does it need?
There's a certain bacteria. There's a certain bacteria that reacts with gums, bone, dental bone, and dental nerves. It can cause it to detox heavily. That's why it creates a bad breath. It's not a bad breath normally like the toxins that get into the blood. The gases from the stomach get into the air passage, and then when you secrete it out the lungs, that's one kind of bad breath. But the particular bad breath from bitter milk is usually breaking down the toxicity in the nerve tissue or the bones in the mandibles, and it secretes out the gums along the teeth, and that creates a foul odor.
Is about 60, 70 degrees okay? Has it got to be up near body temperature?
No, it depends. If you let it sit for 8-10 hours at room temperature, 60, 80, 70 degrees is fine.
Okay. But it's got to sit for long. You can't
Longer,
just heat it
the
up.
cooler it is, the longer.
Oh, I see.
Okay, where were we? Right there. Yeah. Whose oil? The whose?
The CO2 extracted.
CO2 extracted?
Yeah, they're extracted in the
Yeah, but with the friction, they heat up to somewhere around 118 to 130 degrees. Well, that would be wonderful. If it's under 96 degrees, oils are fine. Yeah, they're not destabilized. And it takes about 96 degrees to start cauterizing the phosphorus. Somebody also asked me to, and those people who came late, is Teresa around here somewhere? Teresa left? Okay. Then, Lori, would you take care of the people who came late to collect $25 from them? Thank you. Somebody asked me to talk about venereal diseases in sex. Sexually transmitted venereal diseases. In my research, there's only 2 categories of sexually transmitted venereal disease. And that's documented, experiential, not philosophical and theoretical bullshit. Crabs are definitely contagious because they live on the skin. So you can be having sex with somebody and they crawl on you, you're going to get crabs. The other are yeasts that live in the skin. So if a woman has a yeast infection or a man has candida, and your perspiration gets on each other, those yeasts can transfer to the other because they live on the skin. But AIDS, HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, it's all bullshit because they have to pass through 5 membranes. After they get through the mucus, which is 8 to 10 layers, then they have to fight the white blood cells if they get into the blood. A microbiologist from Irvine University did a 37-page document on it that proved that 1 in 5 million chance of you getting AIDS or any other disease from intercourse. There's a moral myth out there from the moral majority that want to keep you from having sex because they believe it's against their religion that you enjoy sex. The industrial reason for wanting you to believe it is because you'll use condoms or you'll use spermicides or any of their products. Do you know how many people are using condoms now every time they have sex? Do you know what a multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar a year that business is now? And 40 years ago, it was unheard of. They were making a couple of million a year. Now it's trillions of dollars a year. They have a reason to call things sexually transmitted. Everybody has their little angle, their little interest, self-interest, to want you to believe that things are transmittable. AIDS, or HIV, when they found the virus in sperm, there were only 2 viruses, 2 virus bodies. The ability of those 2 virus bodies to get through a woman's mucus tissue, which is 8 to 10 layers thick, all those mucus fibers, get into 5 layers of mucous membrane walls, and then fight the white blood cells? Impossible. Ridiculous. Not even a chance in 1 in 5 million of that happening. Blood. When you bleed outward. You don't bleed inwardly. Yeah. You're bleeding outward. You're not bleeding inward. So how the hell is a virus or a germ going to get up in there? It's not going to happen. People are getting toxic. Poisons are storing, if they're getting gonorrhea, the poisons are storing in the lymphatic system in their genitals. If it's syphilis, it's storing in the nerve tissue. If it's herpes, it's storing in the nerve endings. You have all of these diseases which are the result of toxins in that area. So it's coincidental when somebody's, they've got all these toxins building up at that particular time, and then they go have sex with somebody that's got that disease, and it isn't because that person's got that disease. It's coincidental because that person has been building up the toxins for a long time in that area. All of a sudden it happens. It's like saying, well, I got struck by lightning because there were a bunch of cows in the pasture, or I got struck by lightning because there are trees all around. You've got trees all over the world. How many people are getting struck by lightning? It's coincidental that you have to be in the right place at the right time where the lightning struck you. There's no madness to that. There's no theory to that. There's no contagious theory about electrical lightning striking you. But they love to do it. The medical profession makes a lot of money on the bacteria theory. Their whole premise, their entire profession is built on germ theory. Germs are the cause, not toxins, not pollution, not poisons. Germs are the cause. You blame the vultures and the crows for the dead animals that they find. No, they're the cleanup crew. That's what parasites are. That's what bacteria is. Virus is a joke. You can't. Virus is impossible to be contagious. They're not alive. Virus is the body building solvents, soaps, to clean out the body. It's a slow, nasty, long process. It's like, let's say you had a bunch of dogs or cats to eat up this dead carcass, your extra meat that was running around that you had left over. Or you could get some kind of an acid to dissolve it, right? And then you'd have all of this waste product and this massive amount of flu. That's how viruses work in the body. It's better to have parasites. Best to have parasites. Second best to have bacteria. Virus if you have to. Virus. Exactly. It's the last ditch. It's the last ditch savior for the liver. High in the what? Because they use so many chemical drugs that damage the liver.
They use drugs.
That's why the War Department used AIDS on them. AIDS was created in the laboratories of UCLA in 61 and 62. They were creating it to create cancer in animals so they could study cancer. That information was given to the War Department. All of a sudden in the late 60s and 70s it started turning up mainly in the gay community, 90% in the gay community, because the gay community was using poppers, they were using, which is amyl nitrate, to bring you out of a seizure if you went into a heart attack. They were using speed, methadone, all kinds of drugs, damaging their livers terribly. So they'd get severe hepatitis because they'd have so much degenerative tissue in their livers, they'd have to acquire some kind of radical detoxification to save the liver. And hepatitis was it. So they infected the hepatitis B vaccine that was given to 90% homosexuals. Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York City. Documented by Strecker, and I mentioned the book in my first book called The Bioattack Alert. Documented.
So
Documented.
Rock Hudson was on drugs. He died of HIV, AIDS.
No, he got a transfusion. So you can get a disease if you go to get somebody's blood pumped into you, definitely. Because that's a direct inundation into the system. And a lot of people got it from transfusions, people who had the disease and gave their blood and other people got it. That's why only 10% of the population who had liver problems were getting the hepatitis B vaccine, and that's why they were getting it. But of course, the government and medical professional is not going to tell you the real reason these people got AIDS. Then this one British reporter linked the smallpox vaccine that was given to 75 million Africans had the AIDS virus infected in it. What did they have in mind? Bush and his crew and Reagan and the crew, what did they do? They created a medical disaster. They came to the United States and other governments for help. What happened? They said, well, if we're going to help you with this AIDS disease, we need to control your resources. This is going to be a lot of money, so the World Bank's going to run your country. So what they do? They got rid of a welfare class of people, so they didn't have to spend money on them, and acquired access to their resources, their diamond mines or gold mines. It's all about money. There are some people that don't give a shit about human nature, spirituality, or anything, and the Bush family is heavily into it. No, it can be passed through blood if you're getting it, if you're in any disease. There's not an exception if you're getting transfusion. Correct. No, it is not. According to the documentation, no. It was created by nature, but not the composite of it. The Dr. Strecker, who was trying to discover how AIDS was, what AIDS activity was, kept fractionating. If you fractionate a virus, a bacteria cell there are compounds that they put on it, and it fractionates into 5 parts. Like I come apart at my joints. I've got 6 parts. Cells like that go into 5 parts. That's always the way we react. These cells were dividing, splitting in 2. After 1,000, he says, wait a minute, this is man-spliced, this is man-made. Only man-made react like this. So they took the 2 opposite sides, fused them together, and found out they had the lymphonomic virus of a sheep, of a cow, and the leukemic virus of a sheep. Those 2 diseases were put together. That's not natural in nature. The leukemic virus of a sheep or bacteria. So they spliced it together, and that's how we found out who made it, because he took the 2 names of those diseases, those animals' diseases, and put them together in 15 different combinations. He happened to be in Los Angeles at the time, so he went to UCLA. The first name that he picked in combination that might be called popped right up on the computer at UCLA. Then his brother, who's an attorney, tracked it, and that's what the book's about. Bioattack Alert. Documented. And a Wisconsin or Minnesota senator that helped him get that information from the War Department, both of them were dead within 3 months. Suicide. Neither of them was suicidal. Kind of like the Kennedy stuff. But it's happening out there. There are greedy people, and there are people that think that we're all ants and we're not worthy. They're running the country, and they're important because they're running the country, and they think that their judgment is the correct judgment. They are gods.
Not all sicknesses or that disease causes
Toxins form, collective toxins. Toxins that collect in your body create malfunctions, create degenerative tissue, places where disease forms. The more toxic you get, the more advanced your disease will get. Right. It's not a natural one, so it's like an unnatural antibiotic that's put into your body. It's not natural. It will have degenerative effects on you. Yes, I'm saying there is natural disease. Toxins, yes. Correct. Yes. All of them are natural. But if you weren't eating cooked foods, you would never have any kind of toxin. And if you weren't exposed to pollution, chemical pollution, industrial pollution, there would be no disease. Sugars were full-blown in those days. Sugars came in heavily in the late 1800s. And that was it was considered classy and panache to have candy in your home, because you had to be rich to afford candy. So people would eat candy and think, oh, I'm so terrific. What they were doing was poisoning themselves faster than anybody else. That's why the rich children were always more unhealthy. They had more eye problems, they had more physical problems, they were weaker, punier, because they got all these medical attention and they got all this bad food. It was elitist. Let me tell you, there's lots of dogs and cats out there and other animals who, interbreed all the time and don't have those problems.
Down the street to catch their chicken pox, and they would have had it, and it would work.
That wasn't. It was coincidental again. It's like bears come out of hibernation. Bears aren't contagious. You have certain times of the year, certain climatic conditions that are just right for certain virus and bacteria. The virus, the body will build them, and the bacteria, the body will breed them. Only if they had a liver problem. Correct. Yes. If they have toxins in the liver that causes the detoxification, where they will naturally be utilized.
So something like the Black Plague, where whole populations almost were wiped out, and they must have been heavily toxic.
You have to understand that, it was like England in highly populated areas. There was no refrigeration. They would cook their foods. They would keep them because there was no refrigeration. High rot, high amounts of barotoxins from these bacteria and molds that would feed on the food. And they would just keep loading themselves with toxins as well as the byproducts of the bacteria eating these cooked foods. They would get so inundated that everybody would break out about the same time. It's like me filling, I've got a whole tray of, let's say, 50 bottles, and I'm filling all at the same rate. They're all going to spill over at the same time. So you're going to have an epidemic, a plague. And it's always somebody else who did it, not their bad habits. Yes. Hi, Susan. Correct. Correct. Well, just remember that you cannot, you're not alive. It's a solvent that your body, it's like, I've got the same soap in my house as somebody over there, and everybody else, everybody's got, let's say, what does it say? Let's say the typical soap, Tide. Everybody's got Tide in their house. It's a solvent. That's a virus. It isn't contagious because everybody has it, because everybody's produced it. That's your obvious. That's as obvious. Yeah, but their description may have been very, very doctored or very, very polished. It's like I got a documentation from Pennsylvania, and they were blaming raw milk on this epidemic. Now they said that 95 people. Kathy, you have to go around and up. Close the door all the way so the bugs don't get in. Thank you. They were blaming the raw milk. They said that 90% of those people who got sick had consumed the raw milk. What about the other 10%? What did they eat? Why did they get it and they had no contact? Why did they get it at the same time as everybody else? You're saying it's very obvious. It's not very obvious. It's obvious. No, it's their belief that makes them distort information. You have it systemically. You have it. If you have it, you have it systemically. The nervous system is the most active passageway in the body. It moves faster than lymph and blood. Again, you're talking about a virus. A virus is a protein body. It's not alive. There's no contagious. You cannot have something that replicates itself by manufacture. This is not a breeding substance that multiplies. It only replicates by manufacture in the body. That's the whole fallacy about it. That's why people get so caught up in the belief system. They don't look at the rationale. How is virus formed? It's not alive. How does it reproduce? How does it replicate? Because the body makes it. Just like we bodies make soap to clean out the system. It is not that way. If the child eats what the parents are eating, and that child was produced from a parent with a very toxic, where lots of toxins filled up in the nervous system, and that child had the same kind of system, born to that same kind of system, they will get herpes. It may be simply coincidental that the parent noticed it when they had one at the same time. Oh, I kissed the baby, I gave it to the baby. You didn't get it from kissing the baby, you gave it because you caused the baby to have toxins in the nerve endings. It wasn't the kiss that did it. It isn't the contagion that did it.
But could there be a toxin, though, that's transmitted, and then the virus will react? You know, like if you give your neighbor some dead meat and then the vultures come, I mean, the vultures aren't contagious, but maybe you're transmitting the toxin somehow.
Okay, you have to look at where they'd have to penetrate. You bleed out. Sores, you seep outward. You don't seep inward. So how's it going to get in?
But maybe there's some other kind of toxin that is transmitted.
You're looking at a myth.
It just seems like...
It's like if I take water balloons and try to throw it through a house, it's not going to happen. That's a myth. You know, maybe the house has a leak in it sometime, and you happen to be throwing water balloons at that particular time, and all of a sudden, a water main breaks at a particular time. Did the water balloons create that disaster, the water that's in the house? No. I don't expect a lot of you to really grasp that because you're so brainwashed, but if you take biochemistry and you really study it and understand that viruses are not alive, viruses are protein bodies, and they can only be formed within a body, by a body's lymph system, as a solvent, as a detoxifier. Then you understand those protein bodies are nothing other than solvents, like we have kerosene. We use kerosene, we use alcohol to disintegrate even vitamin supplements, herbal extracts. If there were enough of those virus bodies in that blood, and the body said, "Oh, this is how you make those? Let me see if I can replicate them." Then yes. If the body says, "I like that, I want them to get rid of that nerve ending toxicity," then it could manufacture from a blood transfusion. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, but if the parent is feeding the child garbage that stores in that child's nerve endings, that's what creates the herpes. Herpes came about? Wait a minute. Do you know when herpes came about? No. No. Yes. Genital warts have been around a long time. Herpes really came about no more than 100 years ago. Did they say, "Oh, we've got nerve ending damage"? They didn't have a microscope to be able to figure out what it was before then. There were not enough of them to do investigations. But let me give you this scenario. You got two people dating. They go out and eat the same toxic food from the same canned foods with all this metal toxicity, highly acidic. Let's say it had gotten botulism in it, low grade of botulism. They started eating that. One broke out before the other one did. Not a matter of one gave it to the other. One started detoxing before the other. That's how it happened. Yes.
I might just reveal this. When I first came 5 years ago, I was in my meeting up there and I heard the herpes thing. I had genital herpes for 22 years when I came to Aajonus. And 4.5 years into the diet, they never came back. So 4.5 years and to go away. I was married and the whole time I had herpes, they never got them, and I made love with her at least a dozen times when I knew I had an outbreak. So she is correct.
You just have to get beyond these myths. They are ingrained in you.
I dealt with them that long.
True testimonial. Empirical evidence. Empirical evidence.
And let me tell you how nice it was not to have to deal with it.
Seems painful.
Yeah, this is.
You're going to ask Mary Jo?
Are you how close are you?
I think we're it. That's it. Oh, Suzanne, did you have another question?
Actually, I just have a question.
Yes.
Too far off the topic.
Kathy, you have to go around. That whole, do you want to clean that stairs? It is black from people going up and down it. You have to go out and around. Okay? Thank you.
A friend of mine's buying a house and it has to do termite repair and wants to do a non-toxic push off this.
No such thing.
How is there any way to deal with that problem?
The least toxic is gas that'll freeze them to death. Nitrogen. Yeah, liquid nitrogen. It's a gas once it goes in. So liquid nitrogen, that is the least harmful. No, you can search around. You can find a lot of them now. Just remember, anytime you take or any kind of citrus oil and use solvent, they use a solvent that's like brake fluid to dissolve that. Once you treat it that way, it is a highly reactive toxin. I don't care where it came from. They use turpentine is made from oils that are extracted like that from pine needles, and also they have paint thinners that are made from orange peels, or the orange oil in it. And once they treat it that way, it is a highly active toxin. These companies love to tote it as natural because then they get you to buy their product. But it has nothing to do with natural.
We have a question, sir. Ready, Mike?
$50.
Okay, that's right.
$50 in milk.
They're going to pay us $50. Yeah, that's right. So lovely. We need the money. If everybody could still buy organic pasture milk in a glass bottle, and they didn't have to return it, and they could just recycle it, how many people would go for that?
Oh, you don't want to have it returned?
Because you take back.
We didn't say that. Just asking a question.
Just asking a question.
No, because you get the money back when you buy.
Not charged for the money in the one that you're that other glass bottle. Glass bottle was free that time. You're not being charged $1.
Oh.
That's correct. You don't have to wash them. You don't have to look them back. Nothing else. I'm only asking the first question. If you still could get it in glass and you didn't have to pay the $1, would you like it that way?
Sure. Well, just look at it this way. If that bottle is melted down again to form into another bottle, the amount of toxins that are produced would make 2 more bottles, 2 fresh bottles. So the toxins are double fold, so it's better to take them and not recycle them, to reuse them. You're using a lot less toxins to clean the bottle than you are to melt that bottle down and to remake it into, because of the carbon monoxides that are produced and the other See, they have to sterilize those. They have to clean. They have to clean that glass, that molten glass. They have to clean it. And to do that, it takes chemicals.
We have 3 full-time people washing bottles because it's very, very hard to get residues off the bottle.
Yep.
And then it goes through a sterilizer after that.
Yep.
Some of our sterilizer initially actually have residues that are not a filter, in fact, visually as a picture.
Right.
And that's extremely hard to get off.
Yep.
Water fluctuation. And for distribution purposes, somewhat environmental issues because there's a lot of chlorine, a lot of simple green, a lot of.
Sorry.
So is there a trade-off between what you're saying and what he's having to use and all the chemicals and everything else?
Yeah, but when I was investigating it years ago, because that question was asked to me by Altadena way back in the 70s, you know, when they went from
Paper.
glass to paper to plastic,
Right.
and the toxins were a lot more to melt that glass down and to remold it. Because you have to have these chemicals that line the molds, keep them from.
It goes into a mining process. It doesn't go back to our plant containing the glass bottles. It goes back to Mexico, the central plant. It goes into cleaning surfaces and other things, the recycling process. I would argue that it would not be human hygiene kind of product that made it again. Anybody here from the recycling industry outside of glass?
Well, there are many places where it goes. There is some that goes into asphalt, and what they call macadam, and it does.
Would you be
Right.
mad at us if we went to a recyclable bottle rather than?
Well, I certainly wouldn't like plastic because they have the BPA's.
No, forget plastic.
You're just talking about glass, you know.
Did you ever see that one that ran with visual glass? You sit down here for 2 weeks and went around and you see how it is?
No.
No, you didn't see the round bottle. It was nice. It also can be printed all around the whole thing.
Right.
Or it can go around the whole thing. And we change that label as frequently as we like because we're trying to integrate the content.
It's just that when you have that, the reason that a long time ago, when they used to make square bottles, you had more product on the shelf. You had a round bottle, all these round bottles, you had all this space in between where product didn't fill. But the companies, the companies liked that because they had to sell less product and make the same amount of money. So they got into that. It's heavy.
So except for the here, the box, the shelf is back. It doesn't actually have a well, there's another reason why we've been processing this up here for a while. One is that I would be able to then have no problem with the distribution of the ordinary.
Right.
People, I wrote a letter, just so you guys know, about 4 or 5 months of their own stores, that if they didn't organize the bottles, I go to 20 stores in one day, and I spend 10 to 15 minutes in stores organizing and looking for the bottles. So I could do another 5 or 10 stores in a day if I didn't have to do all those bottles. And Mark wouldn't have to spend all the time and energy and chemicals and everything else. So there's a huge issue. And we can still have
Well, you know, if you really want to know, you'd have to do a report. You'd have to find out where they go, how they're used, how they're broken down, what chemicals are used, what machinery is used, what kind of contamination does the machinery. There would be a whole investigation that I did in the 70s for that. And my conclusion was it was not good to do that. It was better. But Altadena didn't want to hear that. Because they wanted, they didn't, you know, I mean, it's a lot of hassle. Absolutely.
So, back in the food chain or in the mechanical chain, life or planet, it's so if they're going to use it, it gets crushed up.
Yeah, but there's a difference between the silica that's in the sand that hasn't reached a high temperature and the molten silica cannot be biologically reused again for about 2 million years. Because it has to go through many mold stages like in clay to re-break it down. You asked the wrong person. You should not have had me around.
The right guy.
Okay, did I catch everybody?
Actually, we
Who?
have to compliment you on something.
What's
Your
that?
rice call was right on the money, buddy.
Yep.
So, that's Well, everybody, we'll explain what happened real briefly. Very quickly. For about a month, the taste of the cream...
2 months.
No, about a month and a half. The taste of the cream was getting a little weird. It almost had a bad taste. Nobody was sick as well. Turns out Mark had gone and changed from using a little bit of cracked corn and barley, which leaves out the field for the cows once it's graze off the grass anyway, so he can give the soy to eat that. And he went and started buying some rice millings, which he thought would be really great for the cows, organic rice millings. It turns out Aajonus overheard this and said, you know that that's rice millings, but they make gibberellic acid out of it. That's why your product is now having this off, weird flavor and taste to it. And of course, Mark said, no, I didn't know. Duh. So immediately he eliminated the rice millings and went back to the
Diet the cow, if you don't pasteurize, the flavors come right through.
Absolutely.
The truth is evident in the product. Thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for coming.
Us a hand here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.